Welcome to the Parents We Want You to Know podcast. Each interview, we cover hard-hitting topics on what it's like to be a teenager in today's day and age. Let's get on with the episode.
If you're listening to this right now and you're wondering, why is this episode so short compared to all of the other episodes? Well, hey there, my name's Austin, and I am currently in quarantine like probably most of you listening. And because of COVID-19, everything that's going on, really, I hope that everything's going to turn out all right. But really, I've been just trying to produce as many podcasts as possible, but it's not possible when everyone's in self-quarantine, so the next couple of episodes are going to be a lot shorter, with probably only one guest per episode. I didn't want this to stop me at all, but I should have the next month or so planned out, so hopefully everything pans out by then. Anyways, by the time you're listening to this, I'm assuming it's going to be during self-quarantine. I have lots of podcasts, and you have lots of time. I believe that is a pretty good combination. So, what I would recommend is after you listen to this episode, check out What is the Meaning of Life? That is probably one of my favorite episodes of the bunch before these, and then after you go to that one, keep on listening to all of them. You have lots of time, and I have lots of podcast episodes. Don't forget to follow and subscribe as well. Anyways, this episode today is going to be about parental expectations and ultimately making our own paths as teenagers. This was an entrepreneur that was a friend of mine, and we met mainly because of entrepreneurial things, and really we discussed the route least taken and overall the unconventional path of teenagers. Just a fun discussion overall, really a lighthearted discussion. I hope you enjoy this episode and overall, most likely, all the other episodes, since I hope that you'll be binging those as well. Thank you all for listening, and remember, stay safe and enjoy these episodes. Okay, Jay, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for having me, something like that. Or don't say anything. I'll just put that in.
All right. Thanks for having me.
This is a weird start already. Okay. So this topic was introduced to me by you, which was making our own paths as teenagers. Mm-hmm. So then I just want to start off with specifically diving deep into what, for you, your parents wanted you to do. Because I know that you've decided to go this unconventional path. What was the path that your parents specifically wanted you to do, like in the beginning?
I think for me, my parents wasn't like your typical Asian parents.
Yeah.
So my parents were really supportive, and they were okay with me doing anything as long as I went to university.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you had
I guess they wouldn't want me to do something like liberal arts or whatnot.
It's a big diss.
But I think they wanted me to do something that would end up having like a secure job. So like business, comp sci, engineering, any of those fields, I think they would be okay with.
So as long as you went to university and you had some secure future in the future. Okay. So for you, when did you decide, we're going to get into your specific ambitions later, but when did you decide this is what I wanted to do?
All right, so back in my high school years, I started selling stuff to classmates and just in my community. That was mainly for money because I was really poor at that time. But from there, I actually started reading Elon Musk's biography by, I don't remember who wrote it, but that book really showed me what I could do with my life. And it showed me that there were more opportunities in the world rather than just going to university, getting a 9-to-5 job, and just living a life, like having a family and whatnot. So from reading that book, I was inspired, and that actually pushed me to do more. And I think as I did more and tried to push myself to starting new things and learn more stuff, it really prompted me to try to like do something different and kind of just leave a mark on the world.
Okay. Was that, how many years ago was that, like, since you read the Elon Musk book?
It was literally like 2 months.
After you, okay. No, because I remember, I remember you were looking at the book itself and you said something, because we met in chapters, and then we just started talking from there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. But then you have all of these specific things in your life that are unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that that's becoming the norm today? Like everyone.
I definitely do see people trying to do more. Like I've seen a lot of people trying to start organizations, but like it does make me question: are people doing this just to optimize for university? Like, are they just wanting to point another leadership role or extracurricular? Because like you have a lot of organizations, and a lot of them really are kind of the same. Like if you were to merge a couple of them, it would still kind of be the same organization with the same goals. So it does make me question if people are doing this just to optimize for university. But I do feel like that there are people that are trying to genuinely make a difference. So like I know people like these people, I guess, are more like, how would I say it? They're more introverted, I would say. They're more doing their own stuff at their own pace rather than like publicizing it, just to like, cause I feel like it's a journey, and just.
I think that once you bring it out to, well, like other than marketing, like to like let's say sharing it on Instagram or Facebook, then like you're doing it not because of the social impact, but more because like, hey, I want you guys to see like what I'm working on, like how cool I am. But then if you're sharing it because of marketing, then like you're putting money into it, then it's like two different like reasons, I guess.
I guess you could say that, but I still feel like there is a learning opportunity there. But I think it's more like, how seriously are you gonna take it? Like because it's okay to like start a club or something just for university, but like some people do the bare minimum, whereas others actually try to push forward and try to get as much out of the opportunity that they have. Like if you were to start a business, like I like for example, I know like there's like business programs where you try to start your own business, but like are people just doing it just because so they could say I started a business? Because for me, how I did business was that I did everything myself, and I didn't look for publicity, but rather I wanted to like genuinely learn how things worked. And one of the things that helped me my learning was that I was doing it individually, and I could do kind of whatever I want. I was learning as I go. I was making errors, but like still learning from them.
I think that for you, you're a lot different from a lot of entrepreneurs I know, or entrepreneurs at my school, because you don't wait for anyone to you don't wait for anyone's allowance to
I guess
work.
you're not looking for validation.
Yeah.
You kind of just do things when you want, and like I guess you would learn from that.
Yeah. And I think there's overall, I would say for me, there's pros and cons for both of them. Like one, like waiting for, I don't know, an organization to, like as an intern to work on business, or like something for us, Government of Ontario Summer Company, that kind of stuff. Like there's legitimacy with having an organization behind you, but at the same time, like being able to learn yourself. Also, you get to go a lot faster, I guess.
Yeah, because learning by yourself, you're not constrained to the requirements or rules that you have. And the thing is, you could kind of do whatever you want, and you either win or you lose. Like if you lose, you learn from it. If you win, great job. Whereas if you work like in an organization, there's a lot of democracy, and you're not really able to kind of do what you want. And like sometimes to learn, you have to make errors, you have to make mistakes, and that's a big learning step. And by removing these things, I feel like people aren't actually learning.
Because I know for both me and you, like for me, I've had several projects over the years that have almost all failed. Well, actually, I think they all failed. But the reason for what I've done so far, and being able to step up to where I am right now, is to say, because I failed at those things, I've learned a lot more.
Yeah, definitely.
And for you, would you say that, let's say you had an organization behind you, I don't know which one, just hypothetically an organization, would you go back and take up that organization, let's say an intern, for 2 years, or would you rather have learned everything like what you've done right now?
Say I would have rather. Well, the thing is that this is a trick question, because if I hadn't learned this, if I hadn't did the stuff that I had did before by myself, I wouldn't exactly be at the place that I am now. But if I think about it, if that I joined an intern at an organization, like the person that I would be today would be completely different from the person that I would be if I were to become an intern.
Yeah.
Because I can only see it at one point of view.
Oh, that's true.
I would say that doing trial and error, just doing what I've done for the past like couple of years, that would be my option.
Now, I referenced that we were going to talk about you and what you do, like making your own unconventional paths for you. What kind of mark do you want to have on the world? Because we were talking before interview, you want to leave a mark on the world.
Well, there are a lot of ways to leave a mark in the world. So you could do something like academia, where you publish like a journal, like a research paper, and like change the world completely. There's things like where you start a company like Google and you change how search engines work, how we do stuff on the internet. And there's also like things such as like making changes in like a community, like volunteering. So there are multiple ways of making a mark in the world. But for me, what I hope to do in the future is to change a way that we work. It could be like, I'm kind of fine with going into the academia route or a startup, but I want to just change one of the things, change an inconvenience in our lives. I guess that's how you would put it.
So solve a problem, essentially.
Yeah.
Let's say for academia, what specifically are you doing in academia to be able to
You could always create a new technology. Like, for example, like if you look at like computers, not a company didn't make a computer. It was first researched and developed in like universities, and then companies were born out of that.
Okay. So kind of like
I guess like pioneering a technology.
Okay. Now, I know that through the job sense that you do want to be able to take an unconventional route. Well, you go to university, but then still, as you progress farther into there, like you pave your own path. Are there any aspects in life that you want to be able to keep the norm? So what I mean by that is, let's say you want to have a family, or you want to be able to still get a house by a certain age. Are there any aspects of your life that you want to still keep the same?
Yeah, I like starting a family, getting a house. Those are things that I would definitely want, and I think that a majority of people do also want. But I think for me, I also want to do something big while doing that, and that's actually like a hard thing, because your opportunities to finding a family and starting like buying a house is a lot more restricted because of your projects that you're doing. So like, for example, you wouldn't be able to be committed to like a relationship because you're trying to do this.
I mean, what are your opinions? Because this ties into work-life balance, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, either they don't believe in it or they have a strong opinion about it. For you, what's your opinion on work-life balance?
I don't really have an opinion. I guess the closest would be, I don't think I'm at that stage yet to correctly be able to answer your question. So for now, I would say that I'm still unsure.
Let's say for me, I want to be able to have a stable family. I want to be able to work to the point where I can still hypothetically play with my kids and work enough to make enough money to provide for a family. Then that requires a work-life balance of, let's say, 40 hours every single week. But then on the weekends, I can relax with the family.
I see.
But then if it comes to wanting to change the world or attempting to change the world, then those two, like family and home, just go completely out the window. If it comes to being able to do those specific things, then I'll have to be able to sacrifice those two things. So I think that's like my take on it. It really is just personal preference.
In that case, I think it would depend on your age and the period that you do it in. Like if you do it like straight out of out of a university, then definitely I would say more like working side. But if you're like maybe 30, 40 years old, then finding a work-life balance is definitely important, because when I think that right after university or like just like school in general, that's like the best time to take risk, because once you have a family and a house and like people that you have to watch, then taking risks is a lot harder because you have a lot of liabilities and things to worry about. Whereas right right out of university, kind of just free. You could kind of just do whatever you want. I think that would be like the best time to kind of just sacrifice your life side and just put in a lot of work. But as you get older, I think just aspects of having the life aspect of a work-life balance would start to increase.
I had somewhat of a conversation like this where it's being able to, it was in episode 2, Our Biggest Fears, the third conversation. We're talking about how the younger you are, the more risk you're able to tolerate and take because you don't have all these liabilities on you. Would you say that from taking a look at where you are right now, looking at the past 2 years, would you say that your high school experience was one that you don't have any regrets for? Or if you did have any regrets, what were they?
I mean, like I said before, if I were to think about the past, a lot of things would change, resulting in me not being the person that I am today. But if I were to have regrets, it would be just, well, I guess like if I were to look back in my specifically on my like first 2 years, would be more like I regret that I wasn't like socializing more, joining clubs and whatnot. Back then I was more like a gamer and just playing sports and whatnot. But in the last 2 years, I would regret that I didn't do more. I didn't start doing more things, learn more, reading more books. And I guess it would be because during my first 2 years and my last 2 years, I realized there was like a huge inflection point. So that's why it's hard for me to explain that my regrets would be different in different time periods.
What was that like change for you? Because before the interview we talked about not wanting to waste life and being able to just make the most use of it. What was that changing?
Well, I think it was like a huge process. I don't think it was like in a day I was like, I want to change the world or something. I think so for me it was like just doing something small and realizing that I wanted to do more to the point where I realized that I wanted to do something significant. So I guess that would be like the progress.
Do you think something like this could be learned where you want to be able, like someone is able to teach this in a program or a school to be able to either think this kind of way or seek out opportunities to?
I think it has to be developed, but
Okay.
I feel like that it could be fastened with support. I mean, like if your parents told you, like when you were in like grade 5 or whatnot, saying that you're never gonna make a change in your life, like you might believe that. But if your parents were to say like, keep working harder, one day you could like start a company like Google, then I think that support would help encourage you to take on this path. But for people that don't get the support at the beginning, I think it has to be discovered and realized during a period of life or time.
Why don't you care about what people think?
I feel like that's a weakness
Okay.
because if you were to do something different and people are going to definitely question you. So like if you're, how would I say it? Like sometimes people don't like to hear your opinion and people just genuinely don't like listening to other things that don't relate to them. And I feel like that this causes people to think that you're arrogant or just that you see yourself as like a higher person than them. So that ends up having a lot of negative feedback. So for me, how I kind of tackle this problem is that I usually don't tell people what I do. And it's gotten to the point where I kind of just don't care what people think of me because I know that I myself as a person is progressing and learning and definitely growing. And I don't think these are things that other people would care about. So I found it to be useful that I don't tell other people and don't let other people know what I'm doing, causing them to like think of me in a specific way.
Because I know I struggle with this problem. Like I did and sometimes still do. What if in this case you ever need to share a project about like on social media, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I might need your help or something like that.
Well, I that would be my last resort. My first resort would be reach out to people that I know, people that could help me. That could be like a teacher, a professor, like a friend, like directly. Worst case scenario would be the like going on like social media and like asking for help on like a project with your like asking your friends. But because the thing about social media is that there's so much information, like a lot of people simply don't care to like do more research into what you're doing. So let's say like you're creating like an app for like I don't know, like for cancer or something.
Okay.
I feel like people aren't going to be interested because they're going on with their own lives, and like it's just something that they don't really think about unless they are genuinely interested in what you're doing. Because the way I think of people is that they pretty much do things for themselves, and if it doesn't interest them or if it doesn't relate to them, they usually don't care.
Is that the same for you, where you just don't care what? Well, like not in a bad sense, but like you're too caught up in like what you're doing.
Yeah,
yourself.
definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so it's never really a bad thing.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, like there is bad downsides to it. Definitely, like you're losing like human interaction, but like there are things that I feel like that you need to sacrifice. Definitely.
I wouldn't say that for both of us that I guess we're farther ahead. Let's say I wouldn't say that at all. I think it's just like having the realization of what life is and having like different core values. I guess. What do you think stops people or teenagers per se from being able to have a realization about life itself and like how short it is?
Well, I think there are like a lot of factors. Well, first one it would be mainly risk. Risk, like people are scared of the unknown. People want certainty, and like it's a thing. People want to know what they're gonna do in life. They want certainty, I guess. Like it, like I can't really explain it much more than that, but they want certainty. They're scared of risk. Second is like the status quo. They don't want to be ousted by other people. They're afraid of missing out. So FOMO, fear of missing out. They're afraid of not being in the loop with people. And I guess some people haven't like really experienced it. I have friends that if I were to look back at my life like 2 years ago, I probably would have been like a software developer or like a graphic designer. But because of the experiences that I had, it definitely has helped me realize a lot more than a lot of other people. And I think these three things are mainly the most important things of why some people haven't really wanted to do more stuff with their life.
Isn't it human nature for all of us to want to fit in?
Yeah, definitely. Humans are social creatures. They strive for human interaction. I mean, especially like now, like with the
Podcast.
with the coronavirus, people are like getting bored and like from past experience, I think a lot of people game with other friends just for that human interaction. Regardless of what game it is, you could be playing like CS:GO or like Minecraft or whatnot, but people play mainly because they're able to talk with someone and have like a friend to do it with them. Like that's why a lot of people don't solo queue.
I don't know, man. I solo queue a lot. Maybe that's just me.
Maybe that's just you.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, but if you had a piece of advice for a teenager who wanted to realize ultimately how short life is, there we go. Would you say, because I think for me the advice I would give is just to try about anything and everything, like something that interests you, and then that first realization will, I guess, snowball into something. Like if it's something small, like I don't know, going and for becoming an entrepreneur, having a lemonade stand or reflipping stuff, something like that.
Yeah.
Is your advice similar to that, or?
Yeah, I would definitely say my advice is similar. I think you should definitely try to do as much things in the area that you wish to go into, because ultimately it might not be the area that you do go up into. Like back in like grade 10, I thought I was going to go into marketing. I did co-op at a marketing firm as a marketing assistant, and I hated it. Like it was none of what I thought it was. And I think just having these experiences will snowball into you realizing that there's much more than what you want to do, and just doing it at a young age. Definitely doing it at a young age, because like I said earlier, if you're old and you realize this, it becomes too late because you have obligations and liabilities to take care of. Whereas if you're still young, you could still literally do whatever you want. Like you could start an eBay store right now, and you could do a lemonade stand, but like
It's not practical in
Yeah, it
today's.
would be practical. You could literally start making websites for people. You could even go to like hackathons or competitions and just get the sense of the culture of the career that you do want. And sometimes just being an entrepreneur or changing the world isn't for you, and it's okay. It's not something bad, but I think at the end of the day, it's more about your happiness and just being fulfilled with what you're doing.
I think just to add on to that one point, it's if you aren't an entrepreneur and you try something like this, then you know that, and it doesn't work out, then
Yeah.
at least you know you're not an entrepreneur.
And still, you will also get the learning stuff. You will learn how to market. You will learn how the accounting works. You could learn a lot of things. You could learn about stuff like soft skills such as like negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
You could learn like indirect things like how does SEO works.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah. Well,
Regardless if you do go into like that job or career.
for you, what was that one small thing that you did that kind of just snowballed into everything today?
Reselling stuff on Facebook.
Facebook Marketplace?
Yep, that's what snowballed in because from there, I realized that I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
And that made me to do like a couple business plans, and I realized that I want to do a lot more, and that required doing something completely different, such as technology. And that's why I'm more in like the technology space now.
For me, I think it was selling fidget spinners. I think I told you the story at Chapters,
Yeah.
where I bought fidget spinners from China and then I resold them
Yep.
for a profit. Anyways, I think we're just going to end with the final question and we'll see where it takes us. If you had one piece of advice for parents, for all the parents who are listening to this podcast, and their child or teenager is feeling ambitious and wanting to take a route that is different from the preconceived social norm, what advice would you give to that parent?
I would definitely say that you should support the kid, because I feel like in society nowadays, it's not about making money, because like everyone here is well off. We live in we don't live in a developing country. I feel like everyone's well off, and that back in the old days, you would try to get a job to make money for survival. We're not really worried about that, and now we should more shift our focus into happiness and being fulfilled and just long-term goals.
Long-term goals. What's the best way of supporting your child to their endeavors?
Helping, providing resources, giving your opinion, just helping them in ways that they ask. I don't really have a specific answer. If they're like an entrepreneur and they wish to like if they want to start like a lemonade stand or whatnot, then definitely like help them perhaps build a lemonade stand, help them figure out where to buy ingredients, help to figure out what to sell it for, where to sell it, and so on.
I had this thought. This is a really random thought. I had this thought a couple of days ago. So it's, let's say I'm a parent. I was thinking like 20 years in the future when I'm, I don't know, 30 to 40 and I have my first kid. If I have my first kid, but yeah, I have my first kid. I want to teach them failure, right? Okay. Stick with me here. I want to teach them failure. And let's say they want to become an entrepreneur or like they do competitions. I purposely get them to lose. So then like I somehow rig it so they lose. But then that's because they don't put in enough effort. But then I teach them that like, okay, if you put enough effort here, or if you work hard, you do these like you put in the effort for this specific thing and you work harder than everyone. And then they finally like pull through and win. Then that teaches them like overall hard work and like work ethic versus them winning a competition that like, because everyone's always talking about like how everyone gets medals nowadays.
Yep.
Like even if you get a participation.
Yeah.
I think that teaches them, but then I feel that's a little harsh.
Well, I would completely look at it from a different perspective. If my kid was in like grade 1,
Yeah.
I would try to get them to do grade 4 stuff,
Oh, okay.
because they are gonna fail.
Yeah.
But the worst case scenario is they fail, but they learn.
Yeah.
Best case scenario is that they don't fail, and they learn.
Okay.
And they know their hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see that. What about
Just doing things that are above you. Like right now, like starting a business, like high school kids starting a business, that's probably like what like people in university would be doing. And like you're competing against people that are much knowledgeable than you. And if you fail, you learn. But if you don't fail, you're like, damn, like all my hard work showed me that I'm better than not exactly better, but like I'm at the level of like a university student.
Yeah. Okay.
And like you don't have to purposely rig or whatnot because these are like these are things that actually do happen.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to worry about worrying about watching their hard work because you'll know if you do work hard, you're gonna get to that level and succeed. But if you don't, then well, you don't.
Do you think hard work? This is always a debate. Is it
Hard work or luck?
No. Hard work or like working smart, or is there a combination of the two that gets you to where you need to be?
I would say it's a combination
Mm-hmm.
because working hard and working smart. Well, for working hard, you would get a lot done, but ineffectively. Whereas if you work smart, you would get something done effectively in a lot less time. So now if you combine them together, if you work a lot and if you work a lot and sections of your work lead to very effective results, then that would be like the most optimal thing.
Do you think right now in society, kids or teenagers will get rewarded for thinking differently?
I think doing stuff and just going to competitions, those will definitely show that you're thinking differently. But like, how are you going to evaluate someone if they actually do think differently?
I think, okay. Now that you answered it, I think the question was more of like how you answered it, where like to take initiative and to take risks. Do you think that kids in the future are going to get praised for that? Because I know that throughout all of history, or majority of it, if you didn't stand in line or you went against the status quo, then you get punished for it.
I feel like that just going against the status quo is becoming more and more popular.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just look at the amount of like startups and like high school students doing like stuff compared to like 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that it's going to eventually become the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really worried in the sense that these things need to be taught or just demonstrated or rewarded.
Was there any question you wanted to ask? Or
No,
anything you
not
wanted to
really.
talk about?
No.
Okay. You want me to end it here?
All right, sure.
Okay. It's always the same. If you ever listen to any of the episodes, you're going to hear it. Your letter was J?
Yeah.
Okay, Jay. That's going to conclude our episode.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for getting to the end of this episode. I'm really glad you did. And overall, just as another reminder, the next couple of episodes for probably the end of this month will be all quite short, cut short, for around one guest per interview. I know that usually doesn't happen with 2 or 3, what I've done on the regular, but I'm really trying to preserve as many episodes I have during self-quarantine. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please follow and share this podcast with someone that you know. Stay safe, stay inside, and hopefully COVID-19 blows over soon. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye.